We got a fabulous speaker today. Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. I think we had 130 people sign up to come to this meeting. That is truly amazing. So thank you for coming here. Please welcome to the podium Janet Lane, who will introduce our speaker.
Hello, everyone. We're so glad to see all of you. We're very excited. I had to order a lot of snacks for you guys today because we have a big crowd, but we're so happy that we do. I want to ask you to please join me in welcoming Patrick Dickinson, one of the 3 principals of Rooted In. It's a boutique nursery and a garden center that's located in Pilot Point. Rooted In specializes in regionally native and adaptive plants with a focus on selecting trees, shrubs, perennials that can truly withstand the extreme weather and challenges of the soils of Texas. And it helps homeowners create landscapes that are not beautiful but lasting. Their philosophy at Rooted In combines plants, design, education, and community. And it emphasizes practical, sustainable landscapes built around the toughest and most reliable plants for our ever-changing environment. Let me just take a little poll here. Has anyone heard of Rooted In? Look at that, Patrick. And has anyone been to visit Rooted In? Oh, that's great. I asked Patrick if we could take a little field trip out there, some master gardeners, so we may do that. It seems like a very cool place. Today, Patrick is going to share ideas for creating landscapes that reflect your personal style while incorporating native and adaptive plants in ways that support pollinators and our local ecosystem without sacrificing beauty, structure, or curb appeal. Patrick's introduction is a little bit longer because he's got so much background, but this doesn't even begin to fit it in, so just bear with me. He brings more than 20 years of experience in landscape design and management with work spanning both Texas government agencies and private industry. Known for blending beauty, functionality, and sustainability, he designs outdoor living spaces with visually striking and easy to maintain and highly water efficient gardens. His expertise includes plant selection, landscape water use efficiency, rainwater harvesting, irrigation, and drip system design, emerging landscape technology, and he frequently conducts CEU training programs for landscape architects. He's a licensed irrigator, a nurseryman, and a rainwater harvesting specialist. Patrick earned his bachelor's in horticulture with an emphasis in business design from Tarleton State. He's TCEQ licensed irrigator, a certified rainwater specialist, and serves on the board of the Dallas Irrigation Association. Many of you may also recognize him from his appearances on WFAA. And I've asked Patrick to talk to you about the fact that he worked here at the Water University, and he helped design our campus, and he hasn't been back for 6 years. So this is returning home for him. So let's please give him a big welcome.
Thank y'all, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces. Also, a great welcome from everybody. I really appreciate that. It is interesting to be back after 6 years of being gone from here. So to give you a little background, as Janet was talking about, is we are previously known as Water University. We were here at Texas A&M AgriLife at this campus for about a decade. You may know my colleagues Daniel Cunningham, Clint Wolf, and previously, who is now retired, Dottie Woodson, who I just happened to speak on the phone today about. She's closing down her nursery and going 100% retired. So her orchid nursery, if you ever remember that, with Dottie Woodson. So that's what we did, and of course, about a year before we left AgriLife, we were participated in designing these facilities including the rainwater harvesting system that you see on both buildings. You'll probably notice that the flushing of the toilets is coming from the cistern over here, and all the landscaping that you see. I can't speak for some of the maintenance and things that are going on the campus after 6 years, but we did design the landscape, including the demonstration home over here, the WaterSense labeled home. So that is our background. That's what we did. As my mom likes to point out, my background being in design and specializing in native adaptive plants, I now have been doing this for over 25 years, and she likes to really point that out to me. Keep reminding her that that also reflects on her age, not just mine. So that's our background, and this topic is something that I love talking about because it's very, very special to me, and it's something I practice in my own landscape. And I'm actually starting over from scratch. As a designer, my home was used as a photo shoot, and the next thing I know, it was sold. So I have temporarily relocated and will be finding a new place to call home and a new garden, but that's exciting for me because as a designer, you're always looking for things to change. So I get to kind of start over from a clean slate. We love our Master Gardeners. This is something that participating with y'all for as many years as we have in every county that we work with. And as you heard, we'd love for you to come visit on a field trip. We've had other programs, garden clubs, Master Gardeners come up to our nursery to visit us. We would love to have you, show you around. We do our best to bring in some of the most unique native plants. Even talking with your agent about helping source some to fill the holes here in this campus would be a great opportunity for us, and we'd love to participate in that as well. But when we talk about native and adaptive design, and I will say native a lot because there are a lot of plants we consider naturalized, right? Have you heard that term before? Naturalized. One of the ones that I like to use as an example is like oak leaf hydrangea. Oak leaf hydrangea is not documented native to this area, but we do have documentation of it being here for over 100 years. And for many of y'all know, once you get that guy established, you're just kind of rocking and rolling from there. They're beautiful. And this was such a good year for their blooms too. I don't know if you noticed. So the whole point and the topic of this is designing landscapes that fit your style, meaning whatever style you try to achieve in your own garden. Maybe it's clean and simple. Maybe it is that wildscape. That's the whole purpose of this. And when we talk about native and adaptive design, oh, I just went backwards. We want to talk about reframing the narrative and the aesthetic that people expect from native. For me, as well as you, talking to the general public and on your helplines and you talking to the general public, and we do get some of your questions when y'all need some help with stuff, and we do our best to respond to all those. It's how we present it, it's how we communicate it. That's part of the education when it comes to native adaptive plants. Because when I say native to clients, oh no, I don't want that wild look. That's the immediate response, unless they want the wild look and they're all in, right? So we talk about reframing because the view that people expect, that they think of when they think of natives, is something like this. And we do our best to try to explain to them a lot of what you're seeing in landscapes like this is lack of maintenance and a lot of invasive species, right? That's not what we mean when we say native adaptive landscape. We also don't mean this. Now, as a designer, I've been fortunate to design all over the country. This one in particular is in Santa Fe. And the homeowner was a minimalist art collector. I jokingly said I didn't know whether I could sit on it or it was a piece of art in his house. That's how unusual it was. We don't want to rock the entire landscape. Is that beautiful? Can we do rock gardens or pockets? Absolutely. Because there's certain plants that thrive in that, like agaves, hesperaloes, and cactus that don't need a lot of organic matter. That benefits. But covering our entire landscape in rock, do you know what that does? It causes more compaction, which increases runoff. You might as well have put concrete in, right? And that long term of that compaction is harmful to those plants. So native landscaping is not about abandoning design. It's about designing with nature instead of against it. Bringing back our natural ecosystem. There's a lot of wonderful adaptive plants. I'm a horticulturalist, y'all. I'm as big a plant nerd as y'all are, right? And the general public's like, oh, you've probably never killed a plant in your life. I probably killed more plants than everybody in this room trying to push the envelope a little bit. So native landscapes in North Texas don't have to look messy. They can be clean, they can be simple. They don't have to be so unmanaged. A well-designed native landscape can feel modern, it can be elegant, it can be structured, it can be minimalistic, like this. I was fortunate to be a part of this project, and it was the first modern build to University Park in Park Cities. And my goodness, when we were doing this project, the houses and the people around were up in arms, putting signs in their front yard that said no parking. My guys had to park around the corner and wheelbarrow everything in. Aside from the turf grass, native elm trees, native palmettos, little seasonal color, native agaves, which are Harvard agaves, we really pushed the envelope with that. Once it was said and done, what I loved about this project, and it was actually shortly before I left to come to AgriLife, was the homeowner next door kept calling him into the city because she had all these mosquitoes and she knew it was coming from their property because they were overwatering. But she never saw the irrigation go off because it was all subsurface drip and drip through the beds. And the city, they called out like 3 different times, and they finally took both water bills and showed she was using 3 times as much water and the mosquitoes were coming from her house. So that changed. It was a big paradigm, and I was saying this a minute ago, it's a big paradigm shift in our urban landscape, especially in Park Cities, which I am proud of because I started my career there many, many years ago. And I got so fed up with boxwoods and azaleas and liriope and Asian jasmine, a list of plants that you will not find at Rooted In. So native landscapes, many people associate native landscapes with the untamed prairie, roadside looks with wildflowers. They don't understand that with thoughtful planning and with minimal landscape, we can create any style they want. And nobody's going to know the wiser if it's native or adaptive. It's just going to be beautiful, okay? So native and adaptive designs can be polished as modern with structure or even a little bit wildscape. I'll talk about that in a minute. But when we do this, like you see in these pictures, like I love my old front yard. I had no turf grass. I had all sedge, kind of like you see in the top picture with that sedge kind of spilling around the steps because I had no sunlight. And what is the minimum sunlight for turf grass? About 5 hours, right? And we're sitting on a campus that is known for turf breeding. Zoysia Palisades was developed on this campus. So we can look at organized plantings, defined edging, borders. I try not to say edging as much because people automatically go to that green metal edging from the big box stores. So I try to say borders more, layering, all the same stuff that we do with regular design. It's all the same principles. And I'm going to go through principles because I love talking about design principles. Seasonal interest and low water use being the key. With the native landscape, what kind of seasonal interest do we get throughout the year? We can have seasonal interest all 4 seasons, if we do have 4 seasons, right? It's just not what people think of like when they see the fall color of Connecticut and the hydrangeas in the spring in the, those areas. It's different here. And so I used to say when people moved here, we get a lot of people moving in from the West Coast, from Arizona, and they do want to put rock out everywhere. They think they can, plant all their plants that they moved here for. There's a very large nursery that's moved into North Texas. And when they first came here, they were trying to sell people date palms and olive trees and bird of paradise and saying it was all hardy in their landscape. Well, they're from California, right? And they were actually presented a design from one of our clients that lived locally that was DIYing it, and they switched out all the plants for what they had in stock. And then that client said, everything died. What did you do wrong? And of course I show up and I'm like, I didn't spec any of this. Where did this all come from? So I get that a lot as the designer too. What did I do wrong? And then of course there's wildscape, and I'll touch on this a little bit more. This is a little bit more of what I jokingly call the bedhead style, right? It's a little bit more freeform, a little bit more wild, but it does provide for our ecosystem and our wildlife. The people, the homeowners, the designer, or the clients that I have done wildscapes for, I really have to rein them in. And I'll talk about this here in a little bit too, because they are the one of everything person. And there is such thing as a wildscape and then just wild, right? So throwing scapes in. So it also, when you think of wildscapes, there's a little bit, I don't know how to explain this other than saying that it has a little bit more of a natural romantic feel to it. It's softer, it's more free-forming. People do fall in love with it because it feels like you're connecting with nature more. It's not as sterile or as impersonable. So, but it doesn't, we don't want it to look overgrown, and I'll talk about the maintenance of that in a minute. Now, dealing with the general public, and I speak to you as master gardeners who are on those helplines, who are talking to this, the general public about this, and about the misconceptions of native and adaptive landscapes. How many of y'all get calls all the time about disease and insects on their plants on the help desk, and the plants they're telling you about are not native or adaptive, right? This year's been a big year for powdery mildew. It's been a massive year for whitefly already on things. But do we see whitefly on many of our native plants? No. I see it a lot on, or whitefly, lacewings, mealybugs, scale. And if our native plants do get that, I love using milkweed as an example. Milkweed gets covered in aphids. But does that stop or slow down the plant? No. It keeps trucking right along until those monarch larvae get a hold of it, and then that backs them up a little bit. But those aphids are on the milkweed, and I won't find one aphid on any other plant in my garden. So it's attracting that. It supports that ecosystem, which then feeds the ladybugs and feeds everything else. So the misconception is native landscapes look messy. Do they have to look messy? The response should be poor maintenance looks messy. Native landscapes can be all the different styles that you want. And I always tell clients how much maintenance you put into your landscape is up to you. It's up to your schedule or whatever you want to use that landscape for. Misconception number 2 is everything has to flower all the time, all at once. That's not true, is it? We have things that go through big spring blooms. It was a big year for oak leaf hydrangeas, for Texas mountain laurels. And the sad part about it is Texas mountain laurels, they're not getting any love right now. Once they're done blooming, people just kind of forget about them. And one of our favorites that we've been using a lot, I don't know if you noticed when you come in, the silver mountain laurel. The one that's out front is called silver pesos. And we use those a lot, and they have a very, very deep purple to them. Misconception number 3, native means no maintenance. Should I go back to those first pictures and show the no maintenance side? I am not a weed puller. I know a lot of people think that is good therapy and this and that. I will smother it with mulch or something before I pull it. I am a pick pruner though. I love cutting arrangements for my house. I'm a little bit addicted to vases. May have just bought a new one in Bainbridge Island. And then pick pruning also gives a little bit of tidiness. I can keep plants from overtaking other plants. Because even though we tell you a plant gets 3 feet wide, I'll use Salvia farinaceae as an example, Henry Dulberg or Augusta Dulberg. If those are really happy in full sun, we tell people they can get 3 feet tall and about 2 feet wide. How many of y'all's is wider than 2 feet wide? Yeah. If it's really happy. That doesn't mean that they don't stretch those boundaries a little bit. And I kind of keep things tidied up and separated a little bit. Seasonal prunebacks, I get so frustrated at this time of year when I show up on properties or I'm driving around and looking along the highways and all the perennial grasses that were never trimmed back and all the green that's coming back through them. That looks messy to me. I love, doing March 1 is my prune back day. I don't know which one is yours, but March 1 is my religious prune back day in my garden. I love it. It's like a spring cleaning, right? I get out there and I prune everything back. I get all that new growth every year, and it's gorgeous. And so that's the misconception. It is not no maintenance. It is low maintenance. And I correct people just like I correct people that say zeroscape. And I said, that's not how you say it, that's not how you pronounce it. So modern, y'all have heard that a lot, right? Zeroscape. Oh, you don't want any plants? You want zero? You want nothing? So when you put it like that, it really puts a new thought onto it. So modern is some of my favorite things to design. The architect that I do work with, that I did the Santa Fe project, I'm doing some new projects, which is townhomes and duplexes. Yes, duplexes are back, y'all, but they're modern. I'm doing a lot of work for them because the homeowners that move into tight spaces like that, they're not going to maintain anything. They're not going to touch it. So modern landscapes is much more minimal. This is where we will use a little bit more of a gravel base. I have since moved away from decomposed granite because decomposed granite grows a lot of weeds. It gets sediment built up in it, it grows weeds faster. Will you get weeds in gravel or rock? Guaranteed. We're North Texas. We average 32 to 36 inches of rain a year, weeds will grow, right? We put fabric, geotextile fabric underneath it, but decomposed granite, sandy bases, certain plants will grow in, they like it. So I've moved away from that a little bit, but we use a lot of agaves and yuccas. Those are very popular in modern design because they're very architectural. Minimal palette. This is the less is more. We use less, we don't do a huge diverse landscape. Strong geometry, meaning a lot of straight edges, or if I do circles, I have to mimic that pattern going all the way across. And then, like I said, those sculptural plants. Prairie contemporary is one of my favorites to do now. I call it the pocket prairies and doing different things. This exact mix is something that I replicate a lot. Unfortunately, the coneflower and stuff is kind of fizzling out in this, and I've replaced that with salvia. I've since added gaura and zexminia to really make it look like a prairie. The great thing about it is I only use perennial plants instead of reseeders like Gaillardia and other things that will take over. So to the client, it's dependable. It comes back every year. They get their prairie, but it's not going to take over. And you'll also notice, I'll get into this principle, there's not just a one of everything. I usually pick about 5 to 6 plants, and I'm grouping, doing swaths or sweeps throughout to make it still look natural but not chaotic. Do y'all know who Pete Odolph is? Yes, some people? Y'all should read his books. He's the one that designed like the High Line in New York City. He's a little bit of a horticultural celebrity. He still hand renders. He does bubble designs. If you see his designs, they're in his books. It's color matte pencils. And then his team goes in, scales it off, and figures out how much of each plant goes in that bubble. That's how he designs. And his principle is something we've been talking about for years is you've got to plant in groupings to give everything a chance to establish itself. Once it establishes, they intermingle from there. So it might look a little bit more structured in the beginning, but if you don't give every plant a bigger, more substantial presence, they'll get overtaken by the bigger guys. Now, when you go the High Line years later, every plant that was spec'd in that design is still there and alive. They've just naturally kind of intermingled from there. But I'm a big fan of this. It gives a lot of movement. Now, what does it look like during the wintertime? Pretty barren. The blue stem, this particular blue stem that you see in here is called the blues. It's a dwarf, so it doesn't get real tall. And then the grama grass is actually blonde ambition, which is also a real great performer. But the grasses do go dormant. The blue stem turns that beautiful copper color in the winter, but then you prune it back every year and you get a whole new prairie, if you will, every year. Now the wildscape. How many of y'all have wildscapes? It's okay to admit it, right? This is a safe space. Now, are you, in your head, don't answer this one out loud, are you the untamed wildscape or do you take a little bit better care of it, right? Now, wildscape are the people also that just like to go through and let everything grow. They just let everything go. And that's okay to have that, where you just let it all mix, and also being all perennial, where during the wintertime, it's completely dormant. I don't mind that, especially in my backyard, because it's kind of like your time off, right? But I also know it's still very much alive. All the pollinators, all the organic matter. I was so proud of my previous landscape because not only was I getting crane flies, y'all know what those are, right? If you have crane flies in your garden, huge example that you have good organic matter. Same thing as roly-polies or pill bugs. If you have those, that's a good sign as well. But I also started getting I just went completely blank. The light up bugs. Lightning bugs. Why did I blank on that? I think my espresso is wearing off. Lightning bugs started coming up in my front landscape. And who knows how they got there? They probably came in with a plant or something and reproduced. Lightning bugs are hypersensitive to herbicides and pesticides. And that's why we've lost many of them. So I knew, and of course I have all the lizards and the garden snakes and everything like that. They're all overwintering in the stems, especially the stems of salvias and other plants. That is their refuge. Now, as you get into planning this, I'm going to get into some design principles and how I design. I move around a lot, I'm sorry. The camera's constantly going like this. We do a site analysis or site survey. So I tell clients during their initial meeting, that's when I'm going to be evaluating what I'm going to be able to do. It's also an opportunity for them to interview me and for me to interview them, right? In my career, have I taken on every single client? No, right? There's some big red flags with some people. They may feel the same way about me. But we at Rooted In do not steer away from native adaptive plants. And people don't always know our mission, but it's a major educational opportunity. When they come to the nursery, when they call us and they're asking for, Nico blue hydrangeas, or this type of plant or this type of plant, we don't carry those. Well, why wouldn't you carry what the clients want? Well, we are the clients that know what we do and what we carry. But let us explain to you why. And here's a great alternative that you could do that's not going to require all that fertilizer and all that water, being the key. So that site survey analysis is really where we look into things. I'm going to show you some of my design principles that I taught even through my AgriLife days. And it is where I evaluate and look at, number one, turf grass. How much turf grass do you really need? I always ask the clients, take a step back. Your turf grass from curb to foundation right now. So how much do you need to maintain? Do you need a lacrosse field in the backyard for your kids? Do you need, you have Great Danes? What do you have that you need all this grass? Could we reduce your grass? Also, if you look at this survey right here, you see this back canopy across the back of the property? What do you think is happening to our turf grass there? It's getting shaded out. So then we got to think outside the turf box, right? And I have people all the time, well, St. Augustine is a shade grass. No. How many shade turf grasses do we have in Texas? Hear how I said that. Shade grasses. Not shade tolerant, 0. All of our turf grasses, St. Augustine, zoysia, buffalo, Bermuda, all are classified as full sun plants. Some of them are shade tolerant, down to that window we talked about before. Zoysias, St. Augustines are most of that. Bermuda, buffalo, forget about it. They are full sun only. So I can reduce my turf footprint across the backyard, and then, of course, I always show up to the foundation builder grade landscapes. My last article or blog that we posted, and we post our articles weekly, I have fun writing them. This last one is, are we losing all the color in our neighborhoods and our landscapes? We see a lot of black and white and green, right? Are we losing all that color? And man, it lit a firestorm of people sending pictures. I love my black and white house and this and that. We're like, well, you countered it with the beautiful salvia going all the way across. You missed the whole message about it. So builder grade I call bread and butter. Can you name those plants? Burford holly, liriope, Indian hawthorn, because most of those plants they're buying at $10 a bucket. And it's the builder installing them. So once I do my evaluation, the landscape kind of takes its own shape. I don't like isolating trees. I like to incorporate trees. And this is my rule of thirds. Something I started teaching when I first started at AgriLife and really kind of took out. It was in all of our old publications with Water University. If we can reduce your turf footprint down to only about a third of your landscape, that allows us to beef up your bedding, to give you more real estate, to plant all these great plants, native adaptive plants that you're all going to want to have now, right, in your landscape, maintaining only about a third hardscape. Now, hardscape includes your driveways, your sidewalks, your dry creeks, your decks, whatever it is. That's your hardscape, the things you're not trying to grow, which is also what we try to install in the heat of summer and dead of winter. And then we focus on the plants later. That beefs up and it gives a good balance. Now, if you're on a 2-acre lot, please don't follow this. Let's focus on the immediate area around the house and not the full 2 acres. Have I had that client before where I have designed the full 2 acres? Yes, I have. So plantings, I always tell people when we look at these native plants that it's about intentional groupings and drifts, like I talked to you about earlier, to where things still look kind of tidy and clean. That is a landscape that goes up to a natural area. It was an intentional planting. And then consistency. My clients, both my interior and exterior clients, I get them all saying consistency by the time I'm done. I love consistency, right? Where if this landscape, you see that purple? You see the yellows? We need to have some staple plants that we're carrying throughout the landscape. So when you go and walk the landscape, you're recognizing those plants, and that gives you consistency, which in design is considered harmony in the landscape. And then you see the stop sign in the backyard, in the background. So the design principles, I'm just going to run through these pretty quickly. These are my favorite design principles that I design off of, and I'm going to go through each one of these just really quickly for you. The first and foremost is lines. Lines give us definition. They give us order. They control things, whether it's a border of some type, like stone or steel. We don't use the store-bought steel. We use a heavier gauge steel in the landscape. It can be walkways. The picture on the top left is there as an example. If you are the formal garden person, Palace of Versailles, and you want to be hedging boxwoods like this on a weekly basis during the summer, more power to you. You're not going to buy them at Rooted In, and don't ask me for advice because I gave up on boxwoods years ago. But what happens in this picture if I lose one of those boxwoods right on the corner? You now have a flaw, and sadly, our natural eye and instinct goes to the flaw. I jokingly say it's like the zit in the middle of your forehead that you think everybody's staring at. And it's going to take you a minute to grow that back and replace that unless you buy a 10 to 15 gallon to replace that. Be careful with formal gardens like this or symmetrical spaces. Modern contemporary, you see in the top picture, is more linear, and it can be foliage. That middle picture, it's a simple border of lamb. They wanted a monochromatic cool tones. Lamb's ear with a sedge called featherfall sedge that goes from sun to shade. People don't realize lamb's ear likes at least afternoon shade. Sometimes it looks a little rough if it does not. So clean, nice, form. Now you can have fun with this one, right? How many of y'all noticed all the terms out there? There's compact, there's petite, there's dwarf. Like what does what mean, right? Well, dwarf just means a smaller version of the standard. It can still get big. The compact can be a smaller version of the dwarf, and petite usually means much smaller, very tight and clean. And we have columnar pillar. I don't know if you know our native Yopon holly. There's 2 new varieties called Skyward and Skyline. Skyline grows narrow and tight like Italian cypress. Skyward grows conical shaped like a Christmas tree. They don't put on a canopy like our native, but they're both Yopon hollies. So those are all fun forms that you can have, spreading, creeping, mounding. And then the picture on the left means also that if you want to keep a certain aesthetic or form or shapes in your garden, sometimes that comes with a high maintenance price tag. Once you start pruning a shrub, what are you encouraging? New growth. So then to maintain that shape, you have to do what? Prune more. Boxwoods is an example. And then this one right here is a weeping Atlas cedar. Beautiful, beautiful plant. One time when I was here at AgriLife, when we were designing the new campus, my boss wanted me to design a weeping garden. I said, boy, won't that be sad. All that downward motion evokes a different response, right? Could you imagine walking through a garden, everything's just like crying around you? So this, though, is a specimen. It's beautiful in the background. It looks like Mr. Snuffleupagus is about to start talking to you. I'm dating myself really now, but that is a beautiful specimen. Weeping can be beautiful. Weeping redbuds are very popular. We have a weeping bald cypress. I didn't know we needed one, but we have one. So texture. I am a texture person. When I walk through gardens, clients, whatever it may be, the arboretum, wherever I'm at, My hands are just brushing and touching and feeling, but also visually, seeing all that contrast. Texture and color, which I'll talk about next, give us the most definition and contrast. Contrast is a wonderful word in design. Clashing is not. That's like polka dots and stripes together, right? So, but this one I love. This is picture on the top left is actually in Los Angeles. They wanted a lot of texture. They didn't want any blooms. I didn't have the heart to tell them that there are blooms in there, but it's not what they're thinking it is. And then one of the other things is some of these big Napier grasses like Princess Caroline, which is that dark black leaf up against the blues and silvers and grays. That's all contrast. You see every plant individually. Some people struggle with not having a plan, and they go through and just start planting things, right? A design is very important, and that's not me promoting my profession, it's your instruction manual. Because if you're not planning out where plants are going to go, then you're just buying in response or as a instant buy at the nursery and then trying to find a place for it. Plans, designs are very, very important. Color evokes some of the biggest responses in us. I have a friend who is I have to say this right because he gets mad at me if I don't, psychotherapist. And he actually goes to the hospitals and stuff and helps patients. And they have different colored rooms based on diagnosis. Blue is very soothing and calming. Red can be invigorating and stimulating. And so everybody's different. This is one of the top questions I ask clients are there any colors you'd like to see more of or less of? Some people say, I want them all. And I'm like, oh, okay, we got to calm that down a bit. Others, I want purples and whites. And I'm like, you like cool tones. Oh, I love the oranges and the reds. You like warm tones. So to each their own. Everybody has different. But it's also about the contrast of colors, like this bottom picture. The contrast of those two colors together is where we get the definition in the garden, instead of a green on green on green. Scale, you can have a lot of fun with scale. So scale is where you've got sculptures, artwork, oversized planters. I did a fun project in Uptown years and years ago. Sadly, I've been told the pots were taken down. And we ordered these terracotta pots from Italy that were 6 feet tall. And we put trees up around the pool around them. It was a lot of fun. They had to be craned up. It was a nervous wreck. So, and then the top left picture, garden art. Yes, those are dinosaurs. That's oxidized metal dinosaurs from Laredo, Texas. Who do you think knocked on their door as soon as those went up? The HOA. Now, I don't know this person individually, but I have been told the story in 2015. This made national news. It is in Plano, Texas. And apparently this gentleman's son was very ill. They had to set up a downstairs kind of hospital room situation. And he was scared to sleep by the big windows downstairs by himself while everybody else was upstairs. So he was sleeping down there with him, and he drove all the way down, picked up these 2 dinosaurs because his son loved dinosaurs to make him feel safe. And then the HOA knocked, and apparently it went to litigation, and the homeowner won because the bylaws did not define what garden art was or that it had to be approved. I was told that a second velociraptor was installed before the new bylaws went into effect. So balance and symmetry. Balance is what many of us in this room might need. Okay? Let's have a moment, plant addict to plant addict. The one of everything people. How do we give balance to what could be considered chaos behind it? You've got to have some calm space. This top picture, having that calm space, that border, the kind of contain, it's almost like, okay, you're staying back here and then this is the calmness. That balance is important to where the space feels enjoyable to you and to everywhere else. It's the same thing. I have friends that are professional organizers and we do interior stuff. And your environment can reflect your attitude, your feelings, your emotions, right? How many of y'all, if your house is dirty and chaotic and clean because you've had a busy work week or whatever it may be, you feel the same way? But then once you clean it and you organize it, it's like a fresh start. Your garden can feel the same way, especially if you spend a lot of time out there. And the bottom one is that same example. How many of you, if I took a picture of the front of your house, folded it in half, both halves would match like a mirror image? Every once in a while, I get one or two people that have a colonial style home, right? We don't design for symmetry because we are not symmetrical beings. You've all probably heard you have one eye stronger than the other. That's why houses have different elevations to them. Builders will say that people will come in and say, I want to see this floor plan. They go in and see that floor plan and go, yeah, this doesn't feel right. They take them to the same floor plan flipped. This is perfect. This is exactly what I want. The same thing goes for this one. If you lose a shrub or you have a flaw or you're not maintaining it, it loses its shape, it loses its function immediately. Is it beautiful to visit gardens that do this? 100%. I was at the Palace of Versailles. I was shocked. In my head, I'm doing man hours. Like, how much maintenance does this take? How much does this cost? So no wonder they bankrupt the country by pruning all these shrubs. No, I'm kidding. So, but informal is a little bit more personable. Formal is a little bit more formal, just to say it simply. Simplicity and variety. Sometimes we get called or people come to the nursery or they ask for a consult and they're just looking how to fix what looks wrong with this flower bed. Why does this not look right? What can I do to fix this? Okay, well, you have 2 of these shrubs sitting here and it looks like you're missing something. You need to add a 3rd. Or why don't we add a border of something and clean it up a little bit because you have so much going on. I'm not a big border planter, but in some cases it's necessary to kind of contain and frame things out. Think of it as a framing, if you will. This picture up here is one of my favorite combinations. That is a dwarf Russian sage called Little Spires and blonde ambition grass. It does have a buddleia in front of it called Tutti Frutti. We don't see as much of Tutti Frutti anymore. We see Miss Molly now. But that layering of those plants has some structure to it, but softness to it. That was a simple fix, 3 plants. That's all it took. And look how impactful it is. I love diversity in a garden because I'm supporting the ecosystem. I don't want it to all be one type of plant. And when I say low diversity and minimal plants, I'm not talking just one plant. Unity. This is the last one I'm going to talk about, and this one comes with a caution. If you want a themed garden, you need to stick with that theme. As soon as you waver from that theme, you lose that theme. I use the Japanese style or sometimes Asian style gardens. I had a wonderful friend who I just traveled with to Seattle, and she called herself an army brat. And she traveled all over the world, and she said that she came over with like 6-foot solid granite pagodas, like beautiful stuff. We took her whole backyard and made a walking Japanese garden with bridges and all kinds of stuff. I used to always go back and take a picture 1 year after. And she was running late, her and her husband. She said, well, go ahead and get your pictures. We'll go to dinner when you get home. I walked in the backyard and just stopped dead in my tracks. It looked like Canton had thrown up across her backyard. There were metal pinwheels, metal goats, Texas stars. There was just all kinds of stuff happening. She lived in Rockwall, so she was close. By the time she had gotten home, I had made her a nice little pile, and I said, you choose this or you choose this. And she's like, wow, I didn't realize until you decluttered my garden that I had lost my Japanese garden. So stick with that theme. That is the unity thing. The whole point of design principles and what I love about my job is thinking outside the box, being creative. I'm a creative mind. If I'm not creating, I'm not thriving. And if I don't want people to drive up to my landscapes and go, oh, that's one of Patrick's. Because I see that a lot with colleagues and friends over the years that are copy and paste designers. They want to push a style on a client. I want to read the client. I want to have fun with it. I want to design something that fits their style. And that's the benefit of custom design. Native adaptive plants, which I'm just going to touch on this one. There's so many benefits to it. You're master gardeners. I'm not going to dwell on this too much. The biggest thing I tell people is they're resource efficient. Less of your time, less fertilizer, less water, less pesticides. That is the benefit of it. And you can jokingly tell people, even adaptive plants that are not from here, they got here as fast as they could, right? So some of those good hardy plants. The whole point is teach the public they need to know it before they grow it. Be a better educated consumer. And nowadays, people say, well, I went to the nursery and this plant, it just had the name of the plant. It didn't tell me anything about the plant. How many of y'all in the room don't have one of these? Now, 10 years ago, I'd have a handful of people raise their hand. You can Google it, find out information about that plant. Just because it's blooming and being sold at some other nurseries does not mean it works here. And there's a big red flag when it comes to those nursery warranties. That's a whole other soapbox that I will not get on top of. So talking about just some of the plants, like the different plants that I use in a lot of designs, architectural plants, especially for modern designs, obviously agaves are a big thing. Have y'all noticed all the whale's tongues blooming across the Metroplex? It's a hybrid, so we're learning it blooms a lot sooner than we thought it did, about 10 to 15 years, whereas our native agaves, it's like 50 to 60 years before they bloom. So I use sotals and other hesperallos and yuccas. I'm careful to say hesperallo nowadays and not red yucca or yellow yucca. Do you know why? Some people think of yucca as a bad name. I don't want yuccas. Oh, but I love those things that are blooming around 75 right now. What are those? So that's kind of this style, and I love mixing them with perennial grasses. Perennial grasses, I love sedges. I'm having a lot of fun with a lot of the new variegated sedges. You saw the feather fall sedge in that one picture. But again, I love the native sedge. Foothills, Texas, Cherokee, there's so many great ones. Even Berkeley sedge, which is not considered native, is a great one as well. And then flowering plants, your salvias make some of the biggest impact and some of the best pollinator, easy plants for people to grow in their gardens. I cannot go wrong with salvias. Now people always ask me also, and I'll get into that with the questions in a minute, but people always ask me, are there like a grouping or like a staple of plants that I kind of dwell on or that I repeat and use over time? And the answer is yes. My staple plants that are also full versatile plants, I don't have to overthink where I put them because they'll grow from sun to shade, are native ground palmetto, which the ones that are in the full sun back over here are looking spectacular. Turk's cap. Y'all have Turk's cap, you know what I'm talking about, right? I don't go wrong with that. Getting into our sedges as well. There's that just those handful that will make it. And also Hibiscus syricus. Do you know what that is? Althea rosa Sharon. Many people don't realize it's a true hibiscus, right? That might explain why your squirrels are eating them. So they are just dependable plants. That is a heirloom sentimental plant for me. And I won't get into my granny. Yes, I said granny. She is one that she taught me what horticulture was before I even knew what the word was. And one of the first early plants I remember was her purple Rosa Sharon. And now, unless the client says absolutely not, very few designs don't get one in their design. I feel like that's a little paying homage. I have to end by touching on irrigation, or I wouldn't be doing my job when it comes to water efficiency in the landscape. You need to remind the general public what irrigation is designed to do. Because nationally, 30 to 70% of our municipal water that has been treated, filtered, and processed for our consumption and use is going outdoors. And I will tell you, North Texas helped push that average up. What does irrigation do? Supplements the lack of rainfall. We should still be depending on rainfall. So we need to remind the general public that is there as a luxury for you, not as your primary source of watering. And I will tell you, smart controllers are the best way to get people involved. If they have that luxury of controlling it from their cell phone and not having to go to the garage, is a big selling point for them in managing their irrigation system. So final thoughts right now, I always talk about that native adaptive landscaping is not only beautiful, intentional, and sustainable, it doesn't have to be overgrown. So my native landscaping in North Texas is not a trend. We're not going to call it a trend, because what do trends do? They trend in and they trend out. It is a smarter, more resilient approach to outdoor design. Whether the goal is to refine modernism, true wildscape, the beauty comes from intentionality. Say that word 10 times fast. It is a real word, I promise. So the best native landscapes don't imitate nature accidentally, they interpret it beautifully. So that is my spiel on native adaptive plants. It was great to see all of y'all. Did you want me to do questions? Okay.
Yeah, if they ask.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to open up for some questions and answers. I went over a little bit on my time, but I can answer some questions, and I'll repeat your question and do my best to answer that. Yes, sir, he was the first one. August. It depends on the temperature then, right? Because we could get October 1 and still be 100 degrees. So, but you're going to see it's all about the sunlight, the length of day when you see new growth coming on. And so August is a great time because the days are getting shorter already and the plants are going to start responding despite the heat by putting on new growth. So shearing off damaged, burnt, old growth at that time makes room, kind of like your spring pruning. So I do it in August, and it kind of depends on the day. If it's 110, I'm not doing it. If it's an overcast day, I'll be out there. This fair-skinned Irish boy burns really easily. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned pea gravel over decomposed granite. I'm wondering if you have comments about rock glue or gravel block.
So, okay, the question is other gravels over decomposed granite and rock glue to hold it in place. So I'm also very cautious of using pea gravel because to me, growing up on pea gravel playgrounds as a kid, it's like walking on shifting sand. So we use jagged gravel. The key is to find a gravel that's jagged and not rounded that locks underfoot. So that is the key. So Tejas gravel, silver mist gravel, there's even a granite gravel that has a similar color palette as decomposed granite, but it's larger, so 1/2 inch all the way up to 1 inch, depending on your preference, and it locks underfoot. The gravel glues will only work on smaller gravel. If you do anything over about 1/2 inch, it's not going to hold. So you have to do a smaller gravel. So in those cases, I will do what they call washed gravel, and it's or fines is another word, and they're literally like 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch. That was a good question. Yes? The question is, how do you contain inland sea oats? When you find it, let me know. It's like people asking me what plants rabbits won't eat. We're shocked at what they do eat. They'll taste test anything, right? But they will mow down certain plants. So inland sea oats, when you think of inland sea oats, horsetail reed, some of our native juncuses, things of that nature, they're riparian plants. They naturally grow on riparian stream beds, creek beds, where they can handle their feet being wet but also being dry at certain times, and they stabilize those riparian soil areas. So they're designed to spread by seed or by runners. The seed is another thing because the birds spread the seed also. So what I do is those plants, specifically inland sea oats, if I have a client, and I'll use my parents as an example, all along their back fence, because of the way they designed these old neighborhoods, constantly sat in water. It was the north side of the fence, didn't get a lot of sun, and their neighbors would always water. It was always sitting in water. And there was nowhere for us to drain the water out. We planted inland sea oats across their back fence, solved the problem the first season. Not to mention the pollinators and everything else that came in with that. So if you plant it intentionally in the right spot, give its elbow room, understanding its growth pattern, you're good. It's when people try to pinhole it into a small spot. That was a circle way of answering your question? So be careful with that word, okay? I've had a client that we've had to talk about that, and especially with native plants, you cannot say invasive. You can say aggressive. You can say certain things like that. Plants like that, you could say obedient plant, flame acanthus, Texas rock rose. There's so many plants that spit their seeds, and I don't say that funny. They do kind of spit their seeds. They spit their seeds, that's how they spread, that's how they reproduce. We have to remember about those plants. What I have had people do successfully with some of those plants, like obedient plants, is when they do their big fall bloom, which is normally when it is an issue. That's why it's called the fall obedient plant. As soon as those blooms start turning, they will shear them and prevent them from going to seed. Flame acanthus, rock rose, they bloom all summer. I can't help you with that one. But there are plants like that that are aggressive. Same answer with the inland sea oats. Intentionally plant them where they can do what they need to do. I use obedient plants, Turk's cap, rock rose, especially in properties where I have a natural vegetation that I'm bordering out. We can plant them and just let them do their thing. That's more intentional planting to let them do that. I don't always have the best answers. Yes, ma'am. Ooh, I'm going to open a soapbox on this one, aren't I? So we call it geotext, fabric under rock or under hardscape. You always want to put a geotextile fabric under any gravel, river rock, anything like that. It keeps that rock from mixing with the soil and you losing it. And you have to constantly replenish it. So you always keep that, but it still allows water through and air infiltration to help with compaction in the soil. You may know some of these fabrics as weed fabrics. I am not a supporter and I do not promote weed fabric because it is a marketing ploy. It does not work, as you probably know. The other thing is that weed fabric creates a barrier that prevents organic matter from building up or breaking down into our soil. And it can, over long periods of time, become impermeable. And you have to remember, many of these geotextile fabrics do have plastic in it. So when you're putting that across your whole landscape, you're probably also putting microplastics in your soil. So marketing things, stay away from weed fabric. But I go with the heavier duty, which you can buy at many different types of places that sell wholesale and commercial. You're not going to find it at the big box stores. But it's actually a woven fabric. It's not a solid fabric.
Let's take one more question.
One more question and we're done. I think, did we have enough? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what pollinators like Rosa Sharon?
Oh, do pollinators like Rosa Sharon? Let me tell you, I don't want to tell you how many Rosa Sharons I had in my old garden because there was a lot. But my chairs were specifically staged in the garden to watch the pollinators on my Rosa Sharon. It never failed the hummingbirds. It's a top hummingbird plant. Think of it as a hibiscus. Have you ever been somewhere tropical and seen the hibiscus swarmed with hummingbirds? The bumblebees. I used to have an old version of Rosa Sharon called Aphrodite, which was one of the most spectacular blooming ones I've seen to date. And it almost sounded like the plant was buzzing and looked like it was moving because of the amount of bumblebees that were on it. And at night, I could go and see them sleeping in the flowers. And so you have to unfold them, but they were sleeping in the flowers. Top pollinator plant. And in some parts of the country, it is considered invasive. So they have been breeding newer varieties to not reseed so that they're not invasive. But older varieties, you go to Mississippi, Alabama, some places they consider it invasive. Thank you again, guys, for having me out. I appreciate it.
We have something very exciting today to give to somebody who was recognized as a member of the class of 1995. Rosie Kurtz for 30 years of service. Rosie recently returned from a leave of absence, and we were not able to recognize her for 30 years of service at the February awards meeting. Here's her bio. Rosie has been a certified master gardener since 1995 and has been a passionate advocate for sustainable gardening, conservation, and community education. Rosie is a registered nurse and recently retired from Parkland Hospital, where she also participated in multiple hospital committees. Rosie's healthcare career spans critical care nursing, case management, community health, and patient advocacy. Throughout her nursing career, she served in a variety of specialized roles, including ICU, CCU nurse, neurosurgery case manager, traditional case manager for one of the first Medicare grant programs focused on reducing hospital readmissions for high-risk patients, utilization review case management, CPR, and first aid instructor. Rosie helped Parkland Sustainability Committee establish the vegetable garden at the Parkland Elam Medical Clinic for Parkland patients. She also assisted in maintaining the garden, teaching vegetable gardening to Parkland staff, and providing educational resources to patients and family. She has dedicated decades to improving the lives of individuals, families, and communities through professional excellence and volunteer leadership. Her contributions include serving on the Dallas County Water Conservation Committee, representing Dallas County Master Gardeners, assisting with the first bilingual horticulture presentations through Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, teaching tree trimming and landscape planting techniques for landscape companies and employees. Assisting with the original rain garden project at the Dallas County Commissioner's Office in his later transition to Midway Road. Volunteering at Texas Discovery Gardens and later serving on its board of directors. Assisting in the initiation of the community garden at Vickery Park Gardens. Previous board member roles include MetroCrest Medical Foundation, supporting medical grants and healthcare initiatives, MetroCrest Social Services, a United Way affiliated, opening the MetroCrest thrift store, Texas Discovery Gardens opening Butterfly House, American Red Cross, first Capel representative, and later Dallas County American Red Cross chairperson. Widowed for more than 25 years, Rosie is the proud mother of 2 married sons and grandmother of 2 grandchildren. So here we are, 30 years. Thank you so much. Okay, we're gonna show you what she gets for 30 years. You'd want the same thing, okay? Just open up the bag. Wow. It's a new badge. And she has 4 stars on it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
did so
Thank
good.
you.
Oh,
Thank you.
So, okay. We're going to talk about Search for Excellence Awards. Dallas County wins in 2 categories. 2, okay? So, first, we're going to talk about the workshop presentation, 3rd place. It's called Dirty Little Secrets to a Beautiful Garden. Please welcome Sarah and Debbie. Sarah Burt and Debbie Wood.
Well, Debbie did the heavy lifting on this project, but I'm going to talk about the awards in general just a little bit. I'm super excited that we won this award because we actually had not participated in the Search for Excellence Awards for several years. So people have been around that do remember them, but a lot of people don't remember them. And I thought if I told everyone a little bit about the awards, we might be inspired, or someone might be inspired to participate by designing a project, participating in writing a nomination, because I think that we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. We're a great county, a great organization, and we should be participating in these awards. So each year, the Texas Master Gardener Association solicits every eligible county for submissions for the Search for Excellence Awards. And the categories are for youth, the Outstanding Junior Master Gardener Association, and also youth others. So if there's any other project we're doing with youth, it has a place there. And for adult members, it's in research, teaching site, written or recorded program, outstanding organization, outstanding Master Gardener of the Year, which we'll hear about later, and our submission, which is in the category of workshop or presentation. And a little bit about how you get the award. It's a complicated judging process, and the criteria include defining a target audience. And for this project, the audience were people who attended who went to the Texas Discovery Garden while attending the State Fair of Texas. You must determine a very specific goal of the project. And the goal of this project was to demonstrate the need for soil amendment. You have to describe the planning and implementation and results of the project. You also, it is very important to have quantitative results and outcomes and the impact of the project. And if any of you, and I know people did do this, volunteered at the project, you remember giving people a little survey. And there was some people like, oh, I don't want to ask people to do the survey. This is a pain. But that was the quantitative part of it, and this is what we found out. So you gave out all those surveys. Information was shared with 1,810 visitors, many of whom were novice gardeners. 48% of the participants reported that they were entirely unfamiliar or minimally familiar with the information regarding the necessity for soil amendments in North Texas. Additionally, this demonstrated to Master Gardener volunteers that there is a vast knowledge gap in the general population. Gardening behavior was positively impacted. Of those entirely unfamiliar or minimally familiar with soil amendment information presented, 86% reported that they would for sure change their gardening practices. 230 handouts on soil amendments were taken by visitors. Learning was confirmed with a 95% of participants correctly answering the question, which product goes on top in the garden? Additionally, the program was fun and educational for the 350 children participating in the scavenger hunt. There were multiple survey comments about enjoying this activity, which allowed parents to have a closer look at the Discovery Garden. The other aspects of judging criteria include how the project was funded, who were the project partnerships, what ways innovation and creativity were utilized, how the concept was useful to our organization and might be useful to other organizations, how many Master Gardeners were involved, and our project had a lot of Master Gardeners, Debbie's project, and how they fostered an environment of learning. I think that this project was absolutely outstanding in every way. Debbie did an amazing job coordinating the details and organizing the volunteers, and lots of gardening information was shared. So I hope people get interest in participating in the awards, hearing what it entails.
One thing I want to add to just the award process is that Sarah and I got together before we ever designed the project. And we kind of talked through, because she kind of had this in her head that she wanted to submit some awards this year. But so we kind of got together and we said, so what can we put into this project that's going to go well with the awards? So if you're thinking of some projects, it doesn't have to be elaborate, it can be pretty simple, but just kind of get together. Amy is doing this now, Amy Monroe. And so, you know, get together with her and kind of talk through what you need, because like this little survey thing, I would never have thought of. That was actually Sarah's idea, because she's like, we need that data in order to apply.
Because they're going to ask about it.
Yes, they're going to ask. They want data. So, you know, normally we would have just done it, you know, and thought to ourselves, hey, this is pretty good. But anyway, so that helps to think about it before you ever start the project. The other thing, I just want to say thank you. So many people, you know, the state fair, kind of like the garden tour, is a big project. There were each year, I did it for 2 years. That was my term. And there were 94 slots I had to fill. So that's a lot of people. Some people did it more than once. And I was amazed at how good, because I was there quite a bit of the time. And I was amazed at how good many of our Master Gardeners are at just talking to people. You know, teaching them, talking to them, engaging with them. And they were great with the kids. You know, y'all are just good at that. But anyway, so thankful for so many people that volunteered. There were a few people that helped before the project ever started, like Joe Elsner, who was the project leader for the Discovery Gardens garden. And he kind of came up with the idea of doing this dirty little secrets thing. I think that might be the title, though. I think that was, I mean, this was like at lunch. We did all this at lunch, all this brainstorming. So lots of people. Alan Reister helped write we had several handouts that we did. A couple of them were very specific to our Master Gardener's garden, and so we had people helping to write those. So it just really did take a village. And then last year I made a commitment like a year before to take off for Europe during the first week or two of the state fair, which was really nice of me. So I got it all together, and then Elizabeth Fabian and Abby helped pitch in to kind of get everybody, all the volunteers in place. So it really does take an army to do these things. Takes a village, I guess is the term, to get this all done. So thank you to everybody for doing that, and look forward to this coming year, because we'll do it again. Okay, thank you.
Here's the award.
Cynthia is going to talk about the outstanding individual Master Gardener, Tig Thompson. So please welcome Cynthia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are honored to recognize someone whose quiet, steady leadership has strengthened our Master Gardener community for almost 25 years. Tig Thompson is the kind of volunteer who keeps a large, complex program like ours running with integrity, accuracy, and heart. The spirit of his service is beautifully captured in the words of John Wesley. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. Tig truly lives these words. Since completing training in 2001, he has contributed more than 22,000 hours of service. His leadership has touched nearly every corner of our organization, from Texas Discovery Garden to the Raincatcher's Garden, class captains, awards and recognition, and so much more. He's also a certified North Texas Master Naturalist, a recipient of the President's Volunteer Service Award, and a 2025 Making a Difference Award winner. And this year, the Texas Master Gardener Association awarded him first place as Outstanding Master Gardener in the Large County Division. Perhaps Tig's most essential contribution is one that most of us never see. For more than 20 years, he has served as our leader of statistics and official recorder of our volunteer hours. His meticulous work ensures accuracy, accountability, and the statewide reporting system that keeps our program strong and credible. Through every role, Tig brings enthusiasm, integrity, and unwavering dedication. He lifts others up. He strengthens the work, and he does it all with humility and heart. Unfortunately, he is not here today because he is in Washington, but we are recording this with all of you, and feel free, if a camera is looking your way, to whoop it up for him. And it is my privilege to present Tig Thompson with the Outstanding Master Gardener Award. Please join me in congratulating him on this very well-deserved honor. You want to hand me that? I just want to say, Tig, this is for you.
First of all, Hank is going to talk about how many people came to the garden tour. He's going to tell that. He's going to say, how much net income did they get? Okay? And how many volunteers did it take to do all of it?
Thank you, Sandra.
Hello, everyone. It's been a pleasure to stand in front of you for really the past year and talk about the garden tour. Thank you for all of your support. I am not going to pull out a written list from my pants pockets and read it, because since this is not the Academy Awards, there is no orchestra to cut me off, and we would be here for a long time. But thank you, thank you, thank you. We had a joyful, glorious day for the Master Gardener Association, for all of our visitors, and for North Oak Cliff. We really could not have asked for more, so thank you so much. Do you want me to introduce everyone? Okay, Ann Huntington was in charge of fundraising. Barbara McLeod was in charge of publicity and doing a lot of ticket sales. Tamisha Daniels was in charge of all the volunteers and was the liaison with all the homeowners. Lisa Lockmiller, what can I say? Right? Susie Rentz was in charge of education, of getting all the speakers, and also the logistical organization of the actual tour day. Johan Salvador Tavares was our art director. Every gorgeous thing that you saw came from his incredibly imaginative and creative mind. Thank you. And Shay Mayberry, who ran our silent auction so beautifully. So all in all, sorry Shay, so all in all, we had about 90 of you as volunteers, plus our committee, the homeowners and their family. We welcomed a little over 1,000 visitors to our gardens, including a lot of young people and so many children, which was very exciting. And then all in all, the big number, we brought in and raised for our association super close to $47,000. So thanks to everybody who was a big part of that. We're very happy. Thank you.
They're getting the Making a Difference Award. Yay. The Dallas County Master Gardener Association wishes to express sincere appreciation to the 2026 Garden Tour Committee and in your outstanding dedication and performance. So, what can we say? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They have gotten a pin, so thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again.
Okay, this is something dear to my heart because I happen to be on the board, and there's a few other people in this audience that have been on a board. The 2026 nominating committee positions to fill are the following: President, First Vice President of Fundraising, Second Vice President of Membership, monthly meetings. That's what Janet does, okay? Secretary, Treasurer, Financial Review Committee. Need 2 people for each position below: Director at Large, TMGA Directors, Alternates, and Nominations Committee. If you please think about this, think about it, okay? That if you want to, contact Abby Bolich. She's right there behind you. Here's her email. You can find it in VMS, it's easy. And her phone number, 214-558-9340. So please, this is very important. We've got to, by the end of the year, we've got to have all of these positions filled, okay? So I thank you, okay? Is there any 2025 interns here? Please stand. Did you know on June 6th, they go to graduation? Isn't that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Please acknowledge, is there any 2026 interns? Come on. Yay. They're going out to many of our gardens to learn about being master gardeners. So go out, get all your stuff that you need, get your hours. That's important. You're important to us. You are the people that we're going to depend on because I'm growing old and I'm not going to be a master gardener for very long. Okay? So I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. Our next meeting is June 27th, 2026, right here where you're at. Saturday's All Right With Me. Who knows this song? It's Elton John. Come on. No, Saturday is. So thank you everybody for coming. It's been a delight. It's been a wonderful meeting. Thank you.